everyone, my name is Gianna, and I think that all people want to know their future sometimes. What they're going to become, how much money they're going to earn, when they're going to pass away. Sounds impossible, but really cool, right? Well, as my experience has shown, it's not cool at all. I was just a 15-year-old girl full of ambition, plans, and great expectations. I had a loving family, friends, and a boyfriend. What more could anyone ask for? But for some reason, it all had to be destroyed. It started with a few simple headaches, but I didn't pay any attention to them. Then I was surprised to notice I was always exhausted when I woke up in the mornings. But again, my best guess was that I just had a really busy schedule. Once when I was hanging out with my friends, I suddenly went blank and woke up on a stretcher. Everything was kind of a blur. I saw my friends' terrified faces around me and the doctor's voices calling my name. I finally came back to my senses at the hospital. I had the most horrible headache ever. My mother, father, and my older brother were there. I asked them what happened, and my mom said there was an accident. I had fainted. I fell right on the pavement and injured my head pretty badly. My friends had to call an ambulance, but there was nothing to worry about. Doctors promised I would go home as soon as they got the head CT results. So I kind of calmed down a little bit. But I wanted to get out of that place as soon as possible because all of those doctors and the hospitals in general just freak me out. The next morning I thought I was feeling much better. I was packing up when suddenly the doctor and my parents entered the room. My mom was pale and my dad was looking down. The doctor was very smiley and nice to me. He made jokes, but looked as if he was going to tell me something serious. I felt like all of his antics meant he was up to no good. And then he said those words that kept running through my head over and over. Inoperable brain tumor, stage 4. And nobody could say how long I had left. A week, a month. The doctor said I could try chemotherapy, but it would not buy me much time anyway. The only thing they could do for me was to prescribe tons of painkillers to help me bear the horrible headaches and pain that were about to strike me. Well, you can't imagine what I was feeling. Why did this have to happen? Why me? I was so devastated and stunned I couldn't even cry it all out. After hours of thinking about it in my bed, I came to an agreement with myself. I was going to die, and I had little time left. But the last thing I wanted was to spend this precious time in a hospital with an IV, losing my hair, and not being able to move. I was not going to undergo chemotherapy. It was no less painful for them to accept it all either. But to my surprise, they fully supported me. My primary physician didn't approve of my decision at all. He told me I had to stay in the hospital under medical supervision, but I continued to stand my ground. 2 days later, I was at home having breakfast with my family as if nothing ever happened. Suddenly, my dad said, "Nothing will prevent you from living the rest of your life to the fullest, my brave girl." My parents wanted me to make a list of things I wanted to do, try, or buy, to choose countries I wanted to visit, and they would try to do that for me. I knew we were not a rich family, but my parents had saved some money for my education, which happened to be unnecessary now. My older brother even wanted to use some of his own earnings. I was almost moved to tears by their generosity, and it didn't take me long to sit down and narrow down my bucket list. I had the most unbelievable and exciting time in my life. We went to Disney World, to Paris, and Spain. We stayed at 5-star hotels where I tried all ice cream flavors and cakes and chocolates every day. I dyed my hair red, blue, green, which I had never done before. My mom always used to say I would damage my hair, but I didn't have to worry about that anymore. I bought new clothes and ordered stuff online. I'm literally not sure any princess ever had such a bed of roses before in her life. And besides, I still had not had that bad pain my doctor had predicted I would have. But the more entertainment and amusement I had, the more empty and apathetic I felt. My friends would come for a visit every day and give me some inspiring speech. My boyfriend, Walt, brought me presents and pledged his endless love to me. And I had to smile and pretend I was brave and reasonable enough to accept my upcoming untimely death. I was not feeling worse, though, so I kept on going to school where I was also in the spotlight, which was becoming unbearably annoying. I became irritable and nervous. I was rude to my parents, snapped at my friends and my boyfriend. I would spend all my time in my room, procrastinating in my bed and flipping through the pictures on my phone and social networks. Once when my boyfriend was downstairs making some tea for me, I heard his phone beep. Walt had left his phone on my nightstand. Of course, my curiosity was bigger than my honor, so I immediately got into his phone. And as it turned out, for good reason. I found quite an interesting chat with another girl in my class. Walt was complaining about me. He said I was annoying and spoiled, and that the only reason he still hadn't broke up with me was my disease. My heart broke into pieces. I was absolutely crushed. I felt like I had a lump in my throat and tears in my eyes. I started crying out loud, so my mom and Walt rushed to my room. They kept asking me what happened, but I was in hysterics and didn't tell them the truth. My poor mom didn't know what to do, so pretty soon I was in an ambulance heading to the hospital. It was getting dark, and I was all alone in the room, grieving for my useless life. Everybody had lied to me. Everybody had betrayed me. I had nothing to lose and nothing to wish for anymore. If the world is being so unkind to me, why should I be kind to the world? I climbed out the window, snuck out of the hospital, and walked up the nearby hills. And then I got so mad. I was just yelling and swearing at people I met on the streets. Then I came up with an idea. I found the house where Walt's new girlfriend lived and started to scream out vicious insults. I was screaming so loudly that I think the whole neighborhood could hear me. I saw people looking out of their windows and pointing fingers, but I didn't worry about it. I saw his new girlfriend's face looking out of her window as well. She was in tears, which actually made me feel really satisfied. But then her father opened the door and promised to call the police if I didn't leave their house immediately. No problem, sir. And I did leave. I said everything I had intended to say to that stupid chick. I wandered around the town until the morning and got really hungry. I went to the supermarket, but I had no money. Could stealing really make my life worse now? I grabbed some cookies and headed to the exit when suddenly the shop assistant started screaming, "A thief!" My night adventures brought me to the police station, which was a great shock for my parents, and consequently for my school principal, Mrs. Evans. When I showed up at school a couple of days later, she came to our classroom and started to tell me off in front of all my classmates and the teacher. Just for the record, she was the nastiest woman on the planet, hated by both students and teachers. But who would dare say anything against her? Guess what? I could afford that in my position. I smiled at her and told her to take a long walk in the most disrespectful way I could think of. Her face expression was priceless. Oh, I felt so satisfied and pleased at that moment. What could she do to me? Expel me? Not scary at all. But just you wait. I felt so relieved on my way back home. I found my parents in tears there. They rushed to me and squeezed me in their arms. Mom said that the impossible had happened. They got a call from the hospital, and it was my doctor, who had apologized about 1,000,000 times, but it turned out that they had mixed up the CT scans. The CT scans with cancer belonged to some 80-year-old woman who had the same name and initials as me. It all sounded literally ridiculous. We all went to the hospital, and I went through all the tests again. Believe it or not, I did not have any cancer. I had some autonomic instability or something like that, which was not dangerous at all. My parents were furious. Dad couldn't believe that this could happen in a modern clinic. The doctors admitted that if I had undergone a more careful medical examination, they would have found the mistake earlier. But it was me who insisted on leaving the hospital immediately. But that didn't justify their mistake, right? My father brought a lawsuit against the clinic, and we hope to get financial compensation pretty soon. Undoubtedly, the news was great, but as you might have already guessed, I couldn't truly feel that pure happiness. I had managed to waste my life over a couple of weeks. I lost all my friends, my boyfriend, not to mention that incident with Mrs. Evans and the police station. I blew all the money my family had on useless things. What am I going to do now? I don't know. But what I do know is, no sin goes unpunished in this life.